This is my German-made compact eighth lathe. The tool post on this lathe is solid as a rock. When it's tightened down, it is solid. The biggest problem I have with it is that when you put a cutter in there, or whatever, a parting blade or whatever, to get the cutting point at the center line of what you're cutting, you're going to have to use some shims, because that's just the way this thing is made. So if you have one side set up maybe for just one type of cutting and it's shimmed in, that's okay, and then you can turn it around and reset it for something else another time and shim it in place. My thought is to go and get a more newer style, different style with removable tool posts or removable fixtures. Let's see what we did. So I went on eBay and I ordered a relatively inexpensive tool post. It's made out of aluminum. It comes with 4 holders of different genders, different types, 2 bolts, and these 2 pieces. Well, actually there's more than 2 pieces, but anyway. The problem I had with this was, for this to work, you need a screw. The screw on here is way too short. It's not going to make it. If I machine this tool, what I'd have to do is cut the head to different diameter and really thin. So I knock this out, put this up in there, and then if I have this in there, I could never use the original tool post because it's way up there. Unless I try threading, but either way you're going to have something sticking way up in the air that isn't too nice. So my approach was to look at this thing close. What amounts is this piece squeezes down on this. And then this is free to ride inside. And what it does is it pushes little buttons out. That's how it tightens the tool post. It pushes these little buttons out. So my solution was, but make a nut. The nut, the critical dimension is from the base to this collar. That's critical. Anything above it is fair game. This is large, big opening, and all it is a big opening for the bolts. It has 2 sizes bolts. What I did with this, I drilled and tapped it, so it's basically a nut that will go down on there, and I can tighten it down and everything works. Well, the bolts are out, so nothing. So now it'll tighten and won't tighten. So the advantage is there's nothing done to my lathe. It stays original. This was relatively easy, and it was fun to make a part with the lathe. And that's the way this system works, or the way I adapted it to work. I do have a little handle that I can put in there and tighten it down. That makes it tight. This operates like it's supposed to. Basically, it only operates when there's something in there. There's no return spring on these buttons. And if you spin it around and it pushes the buttons out, then in order to get anything back on there, you got to move this around until you can get the button in. See the button's out? The button's staying out. You can't put anything on there right now. You have to push your button in. My problem was it's aluminum. The whole thing is aluminum. And I had some flexing problems, and maybe it was I was taking too big a bite. And it's standard to this piece. So if you need more tool holders, you have to find exactly from the same company that was making this widget. But the concept is very good. The design concept works for my lathe. No modifications. I can unscrew this whole thing, take it apart, and go back using my original tool post. So what's a better way to go? So I went on eBay and ordered a tool post that's quite a bit more expensive than the aluminum ones. I guess the aluminum one was a trial to see if it was worth it. They'll go on eBay and I'll try and recover some of my money. If I can get some, it's good. The part I didn't get back was the learning cost. This is solid steel and it's a standard OXA size. So you can go to any company that sells OAX devices, and this wedge is standard. Here's the rub. This thing is made to go in a tool fixture that has a T-slot. I don't have a T-slot. I thought of taking this off and cutting a T-slot in there, but I thought it's a lot of mess, a lot of time, and then I'm weakening this device. And once again, I'm making something that's not standard. But if you look at this real close, let me unscrew this real quick. This part looks like a lot like the one that was on the other device. I tried using the same nut that I made for the other device, but it didn't quite work. So what we did is I went and made another nut. So now this can go on there. And this is basically the same thing. This critical is dimension between this collar and here is critical. If it's too short, you have a problem that when this thing moves, it goes up and down. When it operates, it goes up and down. If this is too short, it will screw things up and it won't work. So it takes a little getting into position where you want to go. Once it's done, like the other tool post, swing this out, get it in position, lock it down. Well, let it slide. Lock it down. This place I can put that there. Now this operates. See, I tightened it down when it was on the up part. So now this works. And we go in there and put our little devices in. And it works really nice. Everything works like it should. Get it, loosen it. Sometimes. So if I want to go from that cutting they came with a little knurling tool that came with that set, which I don't know if I would use. But the back end of this, you can hold a piece and you can lock it in this position and use it as a facing tool to finish off your part. And if you needed something with a longer reach and you wanted to put the cutting piece way out there at a different angle when you can do that. And it's steel. It's a lot solider, it's a lot heavier, and I think it's a relatively simple solution making this nut. One nice little feature about this OAX size, if you go to Harbor Freight, and I think everybody has been to Harbor Freight, they have these magnetic strips to hold tools. Well, what's also interesting is the gap on this wedge fits perfectly over that. Or it's strong enough, it'll even hold them like this. So what would you do with something like that? You can keep all your tool fixtures right up there, and whenever you need them, you can just pull them down. Well, that was my experience with a tool post. There's no critical measurements given because each lathe is probably going to be a little different. You might have a T-slot. If you have a T-slot, you might have to trim that down, mill it down thinner, or cut it to different widths. But the metal ones are a lot better. It's worth the price. They're over twice the price, but it's a world of difference. And these are wedges, which means it's got this device on the side here that comes out. You can see it on the button type pushes to the center of the tool holder to keep it in position. And what I found was under a lot of pressure that sometimes there's movement in there, there's some give in there. This wedges into the slot. And when it wedges in there, it's wedged in solid on one side and the moving part is on the other side. This thing does not move, it does not flex. So, things to think about if you're thinking about upgrading a tool post. Hope this helped.